Good to have you with us tonight, folks. I want to start this program with a single number. Consume it. It's an easy one. 6. 6, 6. That's it. Everybody's talking about 8. The number 8 today. That's the number of votes that Mitt Romney beat Rick Santorum by in Iowa. But I want to talk about 6, because 6 is the number of votes that Mitt Romney lost in Iowa compared to his total in 2008. After 4 years of nonstop campaigning, this is what he does. Romney couldn't pick up a single vote in Iowa. The fact is that he lost 6. It wasn't cheap either. I mean, he was spending all kinds of money. Spent $49 per vote. Rick Santorum, he's the cheap candidate. 73 cents, Mr. Efficient with his money, right? Retail politics works again. Iowa, I think, is just a reminder that, Mitt Romney, he just can't fire anybody up. Doesn't matter how long they look at him, doesn't matter how much they know about him or how much he's been around. He's even worse off in Iowa. Now, he was in New Hampshire today getting an endorsement from Mr. Excitement, John McCain. But other candidates like John Huntsman, they want to capitalize on this enthusiasm gap that's out there surrounding Romney.
Well, I was struck by the fact that 75% of those who voted basically rejected the establishment's favorite, Mitt Romney, which suggests to me that there's a lot of open space in this election.
Something about Huntsman. Every time I see that guy, I think he's trying to sell me a vacuum cleaner. But anyway, Huntsman wants moderate voters to see him as the alternative to Mitt Romney. Good luck. He's not polling very well. Romney has also taken a real beating from conservatives who see Romney as really weak after Iowa. Influential conservative Richard Viguerie, he wrote, "No matter how Romney's establishment allies try to spin it, tonight's results show conservatives have strengthened their opposition to Mitt Romney's candidacy. Game on, wouldn't you say?" Viguerie told me today on the radio that he's going to be a part of a meeting of a group of conservatives coming up within the next week that are going to get together to find a consensus Republican candidate. They're going to have a little powwow down there in Texas. I have my doubts if they're going to be very favorable to Mitt Romney. They simply are not. Undecided voters are not picking Romney in great numbers either. Here it is from last night. Only 22% of Iowa voters who made up their minds yesterday picked Mitt Romney. 35%, the latecomers, they went to Santorum. Now, if Mitt Romney is the eventual Republican nominee, I think you can say the Democrats are starting to feel pretty good about their chances in 2012. Now, according to a state party, 25,000 people showed up and attended Democratic caucuses in Iowa last night. For what? For President Obama? He delivered a live video address. That was it? That's enthusiasm. There was nothing at stake in these caucuses, but 25,000 people show up anyway just to hang out with the boss. Obama's political organization is picking up right where it left off in 2008. He's not getting much attention for it. The ground game is getting, to work, I guess you could say, and President Obama is really spending his time leading the American people. That's what he was doing today in Ohio. He was with former State Attorney General Richard Cordray.
I'm appointing Richard as America's consumer watchdog. And that means he is going to be in charge of one thing: looking out for the best interests of American consumers. Looking out for you. His job will be to protect families like yours from the abuses of the financial industry.
Appointing Richard Cordray as the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, well, that gives Dodd-Frank financial reform bill some teeth, I guess. Of course, Republicans hate that, too, the Dodd-Frank bill. President Obama said he was not going to let them hold up the process this time.
For almost half a year, Republicans in the Senate have blocked Richard's confirmation. The only reason Republicans in the Senate have blocked Richard is because they don't agree with the law that set up a consumer watchdog in the first place. They want to weaken the law. They want to water it down. And by the way, a lot of folks in the financial industry have poured millions of dollars to try to water it down. When Congress refuses to act, and as a result hurts our economy and puts our people at risk, then I have an obligation as president to do what I can without them. I've got an obligation to act on behalf of the American people. And I'm not going to stand by while a minority in the Senate puts party ideology ahead of the people that we were elected to serve. Not with so much at stake, not at this make-or-break moment for middle-class Americans. We're not going to let that happen.
Yowza, where's that guy been? I'm all for it. Republicans, of course, are outraged. President Obama appointed Cordray as a recess appointment. There were even more hysterical later in the day when Obama made 3 recess appointments to the National Labor Relations Board. I really like this. Obama said this action represents, Mitt Romney said that this action represents Chicago-style politics at its worst. Now, I want Mitt Romney to take a look at this chart. President Obama has made fewer recess appointments than any recent president. Listen, Mitt. Your buddy Ronald Reagan averaged more than 30 per year. These appointments by President Obama are nothing out of the norm. Reagan did it. Bush 41, Bush 43, they did it. They made recess appointments all the time. The obstructionists have forced President Obama to do this, and they still say it's a heavy hand despite those past numbers. Here's a message for the Republicans. President Obama is working on behalf of the American people. If the president continues to fight for the middle class and do what the country wants him to do, the Democrats aren't going to have to worry about any enthusiasm gap coming up. Not to be critical, but it's a little late, but it's damn good. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question: who was the real winner in Iowa? Text A for Mitt Romney, text B for Rick Santorum, or text C for President Obama, because he's really got the message now. The number is 622-639. You can go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. Joining me now is Katrina Vanden Heuvel, editor, part owner, and publisher of The Nation magazine, and also MSNBC political analyst Richard Wolff. Katrina, why are these recess appointments so important to the president? Now, you heard me question the timing of it,
yeah,
but it did happen. Okay?
Hey, no, it's sweet. It's important. Look, he's in Shaker Heights, Ohio, standing with the middle class, with a consumer watchdog who's going to work on behalf of veterans, seniors, students, those who've been shafted by the scams, schemes, and swindles of Wall Street. And it shows where he's coming from. Meanwhile, you got Romney talking about how this is Chicago-style politics at its worst. He's standing with the predatory lenders and Wall Street. Which side are you on? And I think it also yokes Romney to a obstructionist GOP Congress, which is just sinking in the opinion polls.
The president really had no choice, did he?
I will admit, it's been late coming, Ed, and when I saw today that, the fight was on, we've been following it, Cordray and the NLRB, which is so critical for workers' rights, for rebuilding a strong middle class in this country. Didn't know in my gut, but boy, it's coming out of that Kansas speech at the end of last year. Elections matter. And I think they're already looking to campaign at Romney, consummate Wall Streeter, who has real problems not only with the Latinos and seniors in this country, but with working middle, low-income people. And I think they're looking ahead. So,
Richard Wolff, how organized is President Obama's ground game compared to the Republican candidates right now?
Well, you just cannot compare it. I've seen the reports today that said Santorum succeeded because he played a ground game. He didn't play a ground game. He traveled to 99 counties in Iowa. That's one kind of ground game. But the real ground game is organizing people to show up to vote. And, if Democrats and Republicans have forgotten what that looks like, they should just think back to 2004. Republicans like to say that all of that anti-Obama spirit is enough of a ground game in and of itself. And it will get Republicans to the polls. But, there was a lot of anti-Bush feeling in 2004, and John Kerry was not carried over the finish line by that alone. In fact, the superior ground game that the Bush folks had really made all the difference in a close race where you can add 2 or 3 points by having this super organization, use of good technology, lots of volunteers, just what they showed in Iowa in that dry run. That can make all the difference in a very close election, and I think that's what we're facing this year.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be Romney. He's the vehicle, the vessel for the corporate establishment in this country. Look, you're at the Chamber of Commerce, right, which is essentially a third party in this country with the money it throws around, already saying it's going to sue to halt Cordray's appointment to head this Consumer Financial Protection Board. The numbers we need to look at: Romney spent $4 million. Romney and his super PAC, spent $4 million in Iowa to lose 6 votes. We're already seeing that the Republican super PACs they've outspent candidates 2-1 in Iowa and other primary states ahead. I think, we're looking, let me be honest, we're looking at a party that is Republican Party that is now very, very, very conservative or very, very, very conservative. There is the end of moderate possibility. So anyone who's going to start doing the game around Romney, he's more moderate, can't bring together the social conservatives. The enthusiasm gap was there on the ground last night in Iowa. But I think that hatred of Obama is going to pull together the electability numbers
and it is out
money
there.
Numbers.
There's no doubt it's out there. And when I was in Iowa, all of these candidates are just working over President Obama big time on the stump. That's the one thing they all have in common is that they just go after him big time. Iowa Democratic Chairwoman Sue Dvorsky said this during our Iowa election coverage about Mitt Romney.
He won 17 of 99 counties, but I'll tell you this, 13 of them are the top performing Democratic counties in the state. So if Mitt Romney is indeed the inevitable candidate, as I actually suspect he might be for the long haul, when he comes back, truly I feel very good about our general election chances here.
Richard, is Romney going to have a more difficult electoral map than other Republicans, maybe?
Well, let's see how badly he gets beaten up by this primary season coming up, because when you've got Newt Gingrich out there, obviously very steamed, Mitt Romney has not, just like Rick Santorum, he has not had any negative advertising dumped on his head. He's about to experience that. So his numbers with independents have, in national polls, been good. Actually, he didn't do so well among independents in Iowa as Ron Paul did. So this race has got a long way to play out. There has been a working theory that Mitt Romney would challenge President Obama with some of these younger voters with independents. That's not what we saw last night. I doubt that that's what we'll see if we go through several months of this protracted and ugly primary.
I think it's a very disappointing performance by Mitt Romney after all that investment in so many years, and that's all he's got to show for it. Katrina Vanden Heuvel, Richard Wolff, great to have you with us tonight. Thanks for your time.